press start screen. I'll start recording.
Jesus H, that was a shit show.
You look handsome.
Thank you.
From here, we don't need to do anything. We need to go over to Facebook. Wait for this to fetch. Shit.
Did you have frat shit?
We had lock-in.
Oh, what, pray? Is that exactly what it sounds like?
Lock-in happens once a semester.
Also, you're in Phi Sig, right?
Phi Sigma Phi.
Okay, yeah, you live right across the street from, or the house is right across the street from where my brother lives. He lives in 127.
Yeah, we're 217.
Yeah.
Man, Clint, you're dressed up nice today.
Head dress formal. Fraternity meeting.
I didn't even wear lipstick today, but I threw a baby shower for my dad's colleague this morning, so I'm off the hook.
This shatters all my preconceptions because I thought you were going to come in here with a backwards baseball cap and 2 polo shirts.
No, our fraternity is pretty
Fancy.
Strict.
Yeah, I know.
Our sergeant at arms is the one that sets the dress code, and the new sergeant at arms that just got elected is like we're shaping up around here. Like we have.
I am a man of style and taste.
There's like 4 events that we have
Guys, we were going live.
All right, shit. Okay. There's your drink.
Let me.
Don't make a beverage. We got time.
Yeah, we got some time.
I need to use the bathroom back up.
Yes. I would recommend doing both of those.
Oh shit! We didn't even do sound check.
Well, we're doing time. I'll just go text all my friends and let them know that we're live or we're having sound issues.
We're live. We're occurring.
I'm gonna share those two.
I like how my thumbprint has also now been ruined by the fact that I pulled a blood blister from my thumb, and it's healing.
Okay, so from here.
Yeah.
So to get us onto the page. Come to the page. Share to the page.
Don't betray my trust now. No problem. Okay. This is the left headphone. All right. All right, testing. Okay, there we are.
Check, check.
Seems
I'm
to work
on.
for me.
Check this mic.
Oh, 1 second. Testing. That seems to be on, but
Yeah,
it's a
it
bit
sounds
odd.
on.
Huh.
Sounds tinny.
Testing. I'm not on.
You're not on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show.
Check.
Nothing.
Check.
No,
I
it's
think
not
your
you.
mic may not be on.
Is she plugged in? You just turned me way the hell up.
Did I?
You did, yes.
Try to find which one's mine. Check.
I believe you're 1,
No, I'm not.
aren't you? Okay.
Nope.
I'm also way up, by the way. So,
Well, I've also got the headphone volume turned up.
that would explain a lot then. It's probably fine.
Check.
Nothing. What the heck?
God damn it.
Is it backwards?
Might be. Check. No. Here, Clint, you remember better than everybody else. Which mic is this?
I think it's 8.
7.
He's having some problems.
Should be.
Check.
Lovely.
Witnessed.
Oh, I'm so loud.
Yep. I think it's just because our headphone volume's way up.
No,
Try
it's
it.
not.
Hi, everybody.
Check.
Beautiful.
Witnessed, my friends. Shiny and chrome.
Okay, so maybe it is
Check.
8 with mute.
Yeah, turn 8 down.
Turn 8 down.
Check.
Where's our silver spray
There
paint,
you
by the
go.
way?
Turn it up.
At home with all my own spray paint.
Check.
Wow.
Check.
I want to be witness shiny and chrome
It's gotta
without
be
it.
able to be heard, man. That low.
Check.
Check.
Witness.
No,
There you
it's
go, Paul, sorry.
it's loud.
You're here.
Okay.
All
Hey,
right.
we're all here then.
Hello.
Check. Ooh.
Yeah,
You're a
so
little hot there.
Wait, there we go. Oh, there we go. My mic was rotated. That was
Yes,
the problem.
That would definitely be the problem.
That will do it.
check.
Turn yours back the way.
Yeah, now I can't hear you, Jake. Should
There
be
you go.
facing straight at you.
Check. Well,
Beautiful.
Witnessed.
Beautiful. There.
Turn yours up a little bit.
Turn yours up a bit. Turn Clint's down like a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, just like a hair.
9.
We don't want to hear you breathing. You gotta move. You gotta turn away from the microphone to breathe.
Yeah.
Check. There we go.
like the guy from the Chocolate Rain video.
Exactly. Shout out.
Between each line, he would turn away from the microphone and he put it into the video in text. I'm moving away from the microphone to breathe so no one hears me.
Is this
video where you can watch him.
Tay Zonde.
All right.
this-
Well,
meme history 101?
Yes.
Historic
100%.
is one of my fields, please.
So, quick question. I'm coming through fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
make
make
sure-
sure
I
you're
can hear
very
you.
loud and clear.
All right. In that case, let's do this.
Yeah. I can actually talk from way back here. I don't have to.
What?
I don't have to like.
Fado
We
already
roasted
winning
on our
with a
own
comment.
cast.
Yeah, Fado already roasting Clint.
Oh Jesus!
harsh.
Reintroducing our
already?
host Clint, who was away from the podcast due to acquiring a tie to become a fancy boy.
Yes, yes. It's a +1 tie.
Yeah, I haven't seen you since 2017.
It feels like it's been a year.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Oh, okay.
Go to the corner.
Go to the corner.
Okay. That being said, we're
Yeah,
all
no,
here.
that was.
Jake, come on screen.
What's it been now? Like
What's up?
2 shows that I missed in a row?
3?
No. What episode are we on? 12.
12.
Last one I was on was 10. I thought. No, 9.
9.
9.
Yes,
All
this
right,
is
gang.
episode
So,
Well,
yeah, I
it's 5
missed
o'clock,
2.
so I'm going to hit the play button.
Let's
here we go.
do this.
Hopefully, we don't have too many people watching our embarrassing failure.
Our failure is fine. It's not that
This is
bad.
the pre-show. It's the pre-show.
I can't tell if what I'm smelling is vodka or hand sanitizer.
Mostly hand sanitizer.
Both.
Both.
BOF.
F.
Okay. Talk. In code.
I guess.
And
On Wi-Fi.
wait for it. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Here comes the song.
Here we go.
All right, everybody. Welcome to 3DM's podcast. But first, I need all of my co-hosts to just scooch to the right.
Yeah, if you insist.
Scooch to the right, just a little more. Clint,
Better?
hold where you can. Paul, give me a bit more space. And
Can't really go any further, I'm afraid.
There we go.
okay, you know what?
Wheel in frame.
I'm the disembodied voice today. I am not going to squeezle in
Okay, well, I'm
this
gonna
difficult.
over
Yeah,
No,
you
go
guys.
ahead. Go ahead. Squeeze in. I can be the
squeezing a bit.
I
disembodied
reserve
voice.
the right to put my hand on my boyfriend's knee.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Anyways, welcome
As
to
always,
episode
I'm
12.
sending every time.
Happy 2018, everybody.
Doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
We made
We
it.
survived.
Yeah, we did it.
I already messed up 2018 though. 2019 is my year for sure.
yeah, definitely. I mean, 2017 was personally adequate and internationally disastrous. But
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about that. So, I'm gonna actually turn down my mic really quick.
Yeah, actually, just turn down all our headphones.
just turn
would be
down
good.
all of us a little bit, or the headphones at least, because
Just got a little hot.
There we go.
Okay, so, guys, before we get going, we got a big show today. We're gonna start our world building series. We have a cute name for it. What's the name for it, guys?
New year, new world.
there you go.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about world building for most of the month of January. But before we dive into that, because we're going to be starting from nothing today here, we want to talk about our giveaway. We are doing a giveaway once we get to 500 likes on our Facebook page. When we get to 500 likes on the 3DM's podcast Facebook page, we are going to give away 2 books to 2 random listeners. Anybody who's liked our page since the beginning is eligible to win, except for us.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I won my own contest. How lucky am I?
That joke has been going for 3 weeks now, Paul.
I know.
Oh,
but
yes.
Still, it's still pretty
Got to
good.
put it out to pasture. So,
Come on, guys.
You gotta give it away.
You know I'm good for it.
oh God, no, not more giving away. Okay, so to win, all you got to do, go to our Facebook page, like our stuff. We'll mention this a couple more times as we dive into the show, but let's get into the topic at hand today.
Let's just
Perfect.
jump right in.
Yep, world building. So,
A tricky topic.
yeah, so when everybody begins DMing, there's 2 paths you can go. You can run official content, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to bash on anybody who just runs stuff straight out of books because,
Those are professional writers who are writing.
yeah,
them,
those are
so-
professional writers, and
There's a reason why it's published.
we're just the jerks who sit there and go, I can do it better.
I want more.
J.K. Rowling doesn't know how to write a darn thing. I'm a much better creator.
Oh, yes.
That's a hot take for another podcast, darling.
That's me being a jerk. But no, not for real though. Like, if you want to just run stuff out of books, that's fine. But for me, a lot of fun with the hobby, and I'm pretty sure I speak for YouTube blokes at the other end as well. Actually creating your own setting is half the fun. The other half is obviously doing the actual DMing bit, but the sitting down and just making stuff and creating content for your world is neat. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. I did that a lot in creative writing and so on, and even not as a dungeon master, but as a player, it's a lot of fun to think about. And also, when you're creating your character, it's interesting to keep in mind. Because as we're going to come back to time and time again, one of the golden rules of world building is let your players do the legwork.
Oh yeah.
What were you going to say, Clint? Sorry about that.
No, I was
Sorry,
just
don't
I was just gonna say, like, at first, like, I felt like it was a really daunting task when I sat down to start building my world, and then I made a basic outline, and then just like Helen was about to say, just like let your players help you out.
Yeah, where are you from? New Elfington?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about your town.
Ask your players to come up with
did
where
your
they,
father
where they
do?
come from and
Yeah.
things like that.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I just kind of jumped the gun and dove right in, but
I just like being
So let's start from the very top.
yep.
which is Paul's recommendation. is to
Yes,
start
we'll
from the
we'll
tip.
get to that in a moment. Is we each have
Methods.
a
Paul,
different method of
all of us have stated our opinion on like world building. You didn't really say much. What's your stance on it?
Oh, Jake knows me and world building have a long and
Torrid love affair.
torrid love affair. Let's go with that. My current
There are
setting
times where they
does-
hold each other gently and they just go, "I love you." Then there are times where it's, "Leave my house, never return. I hate you."
He's seen
Your
my
shit's on the front porch.
he's seen my setting doc. It's like 150 pages.
Oh wow. Mine's a half a page, if that. It's mostly just up here.
World building is essential because I mean there's something to be said for improvisation. There's a topic for another podcast, but it's hard to improv in a way that doesn't come off as either tacky or slow unless you know what you're improving off of.
Yeah, having just sort of an outline again.
Yeah, so I personally, world building is, I'm not going to say it's the most important because the most important is learning how to play with your individual group, but it's definitely the second most important part of game mastering, with the third one being slightly below that is ability to agitate rules, and the fourth one is actual rules knowledge.
Right.
Yep.
So because you don't need to know the rules to play D&D. You can just be like, "Yeah, would you roll a
No, if there is
16,
a
a 16?
rule,
Yeah,
yeah.
it hits. Yeah,
That'll work.
But so
And then
let's
sometimes you roll a 19 and you still tell them that they miss.
That's when you make them
Clint,
afraid.
that's the secrets.
So, guys, as we did in the last show of 2017, we all drew out of a hat. We all picked little bits of a world we're going to work on. But before we start sharing all that stuff, because obviously, it's like we had 1 week. We all have jobs and other full-time stuff we do, so we couldn't just, hey, guys, we just whooped up like a, incredibly deep setting in 1 week.
Right.
We've done our best, so to speak.
But we're gonna go from the very top. So let's start with the key tenets of world building. Let's try to boil it down right now to 5 simple things, right? So if you're a DM trying to begin the world building process, what are the 5 like just main core things you need to focus on?
My number one, and I kind of hope you guys agree with me, without a doubt, is why is your world there? If you understand that question right away, then it makes a lot of other things easier.
So your creation mythology.
Yeah, the question,
Yes.
of course, is do you mean why are we here in the sense of who put us here, or
Yes.
what is our purpose for being here?
Yes. If you can come up with that, then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I agree with that, journalist. I tend to start with a creation myth.
Yes.
Which isn't so much a myth because it's a thing that actually happened because
Yeah.
thankfully
Because this
there's
is a
magic we
fantasy.
can call upon. But I agree with you. What I would next say is, for the second rule, is believable, not necessarily realistic.
Yeah.
Because
Be
you
able
are,
to suspend your disbelief.
yeah, at some point you've got to put on those suspenders of disbelief. You got to twang them a bit. But
I've never heard that turn of phrase
the,
before.
the best way to describe it is you're in a world with dragons and stuff, so you don't need to worry too much about whether or not it would realistically be created like that.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about
But-
historical accuracy when there's like wizards.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the one conceit that you just have to accept into your heart very early on in world creation, which is if you can't explain it, magic.
Yeah, it's
A
one of
wizard
those.
did it.
When in doubt, blame the wizard. We've said this multiple times.
Owl
Failing
bear,
that, the druid.
wizard's fault.
Yes.
But again, the thing is that believability is so much more important than actual realism that it's hard for me to for me to stress enough. Is that as long as your players believe that this could happen in this world, and as long as you believe it as well, it won't rattle your chains, no matter how silly it might seem.
All right, so if we got to boil this down to 3 more things, so
I
like
think-
the main pillars of
World building?
world building here.
I think one of the most important things, especially in a D&D setting, is figuring out if and or how people move around in the world.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure, that sort of thing.
Infrastructure-
Like people, well, not necessarily infrastructure like bridges and stuff like that, but do
I
people
feel
travel
you.
by cart? Is it done to travel? Are there travelers?
That's
How
a more
long does it
specific thing
take?
of what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say overall world geography.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Geography.
exactly.
you need to have a map.
and then branching off of that, how do people get from point A to point B based off of the geography of the world that you've thrown out there?
Right. I was gonna say I pulled out of the hat geography and map for our world building task, and I've done some playing around, but I realized it's a lot easier to do world building of a map when you actually know what needs to go on there. So because we've broken up this task between all 4 and 1/2 of our hosts, hey Nacho, sorry Clint, we all have to sort of talk to each other, and we're doing this for you, the listener.
Yeah,
But
we could just
It's a lot
combine it
easier when
random.
it's all in your own head, and you can be like, okay, I need my mountains here, and my lakes there, and my swamp here, But that's why
Let's
mapping software exists.
Okay, so we've got infrastructure. We've got the suspension of disbelief. You're going to run into some very impossible situation setup, so you just need to. Everything doesn't need to be explained right away, but just
It needs to be believable
Yeah.
that it could happen.
Yeah, it needs to sort of pass.
You can't just, if you're doing a serious fantasy setting where you've got you're worrying about conflicting kingdoms and the politics and succession crises, you can't just walk into the town and have a TGI Fridays be waiting for you, because that just completely breaks your suspension of disbelief.
but that's also
I raise you running into Brett Favre guarding a unicorn.
Okay, but
Yeah, I was gonna say it could raise your suspension.
That
of disbelief.
actually
That's how you're-
happened in a game.
Is that gonna be funny for your players, or could it be like
well, the question
TGI
is,
stands for like Theophilus Grandiophile Ignatius Friday, and this is mine tavern,
Well-
the old inn.
but the point, of
That's
course,
gross.
is that you have to stick,
Yeah, exactly. You need to
With-
make it fit in.
pick a tone and
Yeah,
stick with it. Just
exactly.
don't jump all over the place. If you're
Right.
going with funny, stick with funny. But next, and also importantly, is what is the big picture? You can't just, so the gods are there probably.
Mm-hmm.
Most settings almost certainly have some sort of divine power. You're not really playing D&D.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What do they want? And what's their end goal? Do
or
they have
if
an end goal?
If they're doing anything or not, why? Or rather,
Yes.
if they're not doing anything, why? Where
So
are they?
that's the big picture, and the slightly lower important thing than that is what are the kingdoms or the empires or the dynasties or whatever? What are they doing? Because nothing just sort of sits in a stasis, not doing anything at all. They're always everyone is always planning for something, because resting on your laurels is a good way to get assassinated.
All right. And then I would say last, but certainly not least, and I might be biased because this is one of the topics I have to work on, is magic. I mean, if we're talking about a world where when in doubt blame magic, or if you can't explain something, magic is the reason why, you have to understand where the magic comes from, how it works,
Yeah, magical
what is
mechanics.
it.
Yeah, I would say to even broaden this slightly further, is magic and the laws of nature, as in are they
magical
Yes.
nature? Do they have anything?
are they
to do with each
assumed
other?
to be
Yeah.
like what we consider nature unless otherwise assumed, or is it like, oh, this entire world is set on the back of a giant turtle flying through space, or
Right.
oh, is this entire world a hollow cylinder and you can see out into infinity on one end? These are the things you have to know before you start doing anything.
Right.
Yeah. So let's just break this down now, because now we've got all 5 kind of discussed amongst us. So we have creation, just knowing where your setting came from, right? Is it did it evolve naturally, and did gods pop up on their own, or did gods make it? There's a bajillion creation myths, so we don't need to go over that. Infrastructure and geography, we'll put those as kind of the two same coin. You need your geography first, but then still you kind of need to know how the world moves and thinks and breathes. Is it weird that an elf is in a dwarven city? Is it not that weird? Who knows?
Yeah, what's the geopolitical situation like?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I would say
Power art.
geopolitics to round that off.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna. Well, that would be 6,
Jake
but we're
has-
sticking to 5.
No, I'm saying to round the geography and infrastructure.
infrastructure
The term
is very
infrastructure,
broad.
as in the infrastructure of the world itself, as you said, not bridges and roads, but
necessarily,
but like the
Are
the
there
sh-
roads at all?
yeah, is
the
there about to be a
social
civil war,
structure.
you know,
We'll call that
Yes.
geopolitics.
is there a
then.
famine
Yes.
going on? You know,
I would say geopolitics are definitely in the 5 totems.
What were you going to say, Jake?
Number 4 that we have is, or number 3 that we have is your gods, and then also your movers and shakers.
Yes.
It's important to know who's doing what in your setting, who has
And
the
why.
power, who, what, where, why. Is just some base things to have, and then we have the theme, the tone
Yes.
that
Minor
you're trying
tones,
to,
maybe 2, and stick with it.
yeah.
yeah, is it going to be gritty? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be like kind of western-y?
It's going to be
You know.
high fantasy, low fantasy, high
Right.
magic, low magic.
Middle
That's
fantasy.
that's not to say though that you can't get away with branching away from that, because I run a fairly serious campaign setting, but I've had some pretty outlandish things happen that get a chuckle out of
Well, yeah,
everybody.
That happens in,
Oh yeah, comedy is important.
Yeah, comedy is
you're
definitely
playing games
important.
to have fun.
But let's okay.
Yeah, but
we're
still,
getting on
you-
top of
moving
it
it.
on.
doesn't need to
Yeah.
be
So, and then
buck wild.
last but not least, magic, nature. We'll just call this magic in general, but like
Yeah.
divine magic, magic of nature magic, and arcane magic. Like what are the 3 main principles there? So when we just look at those 5 things, this is already overwhelming. But
Oh yeah.
Let's
today-
take
a
step
lot
back
of this
here,
is
huh?
done for you. Some mechanics of magic, like how it works in combat, is already done for you. But how does it transfer to people? Is it like hereditary? You can play around with that.
But
I was gonna say though,
Yeah.
that is an interesting thought, but we'll get to that
Oh,
in a
yeah.
moment,
Sorry,
I'm
I
sure.
think I'm getting there or something.
Midichlorians.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I will fight you. They're a good plot device.
High midichlorian levels.
okay,
That's my hot take for the day.
Oh,
That's-
That's how you introduce the
That-
mystic.
okay,
That's my one.
okay,
That's my
Oh
one hot
God,
take for the
no!
day. Sorry, y'all.
stop.
No mystic.
Stop. So, all right. No, so we are going to take these 5, and we are going to use these 5 pillars that we have just done, and we are going to create the that one city that none of us really. It's going to be the one thing we all collaborate on in our setting here.
Yeah, right now.
Right now, we're going to do it right now.
Oh, okay.
We're doing it live.
One
Ladies
last
and
thing
gentlemen.
I should say, in defense of my own personal pleasure, this is not the only way you can start when creating a world.
Yeah.
You can also start, of course, from doing the very top, in the beginning.
So yeah, let's just debate those really
Yes.
quick, the merits of both, because
Okay.
there are pros and cons to
We had a bit of a fight in the car
100%.
about this.
It wasn't
so-
really a
It
fight.
wasn't
It
a
was
fight. We
it
all
was a
had
discussion.
we had opinions.
Yes.
Um,
Heated opinions.
Yes.
Well, I have the bell over here just in case things get heated.
All right.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you, Clint.
I'm not quite ready for rapid fire yet, I gotta say.
So we ain't doing no rapid fire, but really quick, we're just gonna go through
It's
the
just 'cause
pros
this
and
is a
cons of
folding
doing
table,
both.
and if we hit it with a hammer, it'll break.
So, in the way Paul likes to do things, you start with creation
Yeah,
and
the
you
top
sort it.
down method.
Yeah, let me explain myself if you don't mind.
No, I was just giving you an introduction.
course.
I'm not gonna speak for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Paul's method, the creation, start at the top, work your way down. How would you go ahead and explain it now? You ruined it. You killed it.
I'm sorry. So, the way I create a world is I start and I say, how did the world start? Who made it? And why? Because nothing happens unless somebody wants to do something, or because laziness because somebody doesn't want to do something. So ultimately, somebody had to create the world. Why did they do it? Why did they shape it like this? Who'd they put here? For what reasons? So I don't start with the geopolitics of a country, how people move about it. I say, what gods exist? Why do they do this?
Yeah. Why do people need to move around?
Yes. So why do people
Broadly.
exist?
Yeah.
Do the gods? Is it like? Do they feed off prayer? Do they need worshipers to serve them?
Do they need to clap?
yes?
People to clap for them so they don't die on the stage?
Are they really
you know?
narcissistic and just want people cheering them on? Like, why did they create people? Because a setting without people is an interesting setting from a game design, like from a world design one, but not very interesting from a player perspective. It's like, oh, you can play a non-sentient animal. What fun!
Zeus might come and do you.
So yeah, I start from the top. I create the gods. I think, how would those gods create the world? And I think, how would they shape this world? What methods do they put upon it? What are the gods' relationships with each other? And then I get to the world and I decide, what is the world generally like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it temperate? Something like that? How do I work with that? And then I go down and say, these are the major kingdoms, or major powers, or whatever you want to call them. These are the major non-state actors. Then I go even further and I go into one kingdom and I say, this is what this kingdom's about. This is why. This is how. and I go through each kingdom and I do that. And it's admittedly a very laborious and detailed process, and I'd not recommend it unless you have a lot of free time. But I feel it also creates the most consistent world because you're never going to have an issue like, oh, I accidentally changed something along the way, and now everything I wrote is invalidated because you're going from top down.
May I add something here about this is why you keep good notes.
Yes.
Not, you can write them on paper, you can keep them in like your Roll20 file or something like that, or however you play. But we have a few options. I think I sent it to the group. I know I sent it to you, Jake, but notebook.ai is a website software that is like specifically designed for world building. It's for like writers and role players and game designers. Yeah, I meant to send it to the whole group. Sorry, it's super cool. It doesn't load properly on my iPad. I checked.
All right.
Looking at you, iOS, but it's really very helpful because it has all sorts of categories like that, so you can always remember. Aha.
Remember.
This is what I wrote. This
Yes.
is where it is. Yeah.
Oh, wiki
You are
notes.
my son and the one true king. Now,
Until you ain't.
now that I'm done feeling between the two of you, now that I feel very personally attacked,
I'm sorry.
in that I don't take notes, and
I don't either. So I guess
remember.
the table's split.
I remember my entire setting, top to bottom. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't remember what those hobos' names were. Dang.
Alas,
I have
they're
like 4
hobos.
Pinterest boards and several documents, y'all, and I
So,
don't even
the
DM. I
other-
just write.
But moving on.
Yeah, moving on. The other creation mythology. This is also known as taking the easy way out. This is if you.
The coward's way out.
Oh, geez, thanks. No, so if you're
Just saying I feel attacked right now.
a little bit, yeah.
Can't have a good time.
So I just came here to have fun. So, if you are light on time, or because when you start to look at everything that's involved with
It
world
gets
building,
overwhelming.
yeah, it's daunting, especially if
Exactly.
you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Especially getting your players to do some legwork. You might say, here.
Yeah, but
They might say, oh, I come from this house. And you can say, great, there you go.
That's a part of what
Yeah,
Jake
sorry.
is about to talk about.
Yeah. So, as a conceit, like, because I've done it your way, Paul. I have my other setting that I'm working on for, basically my one-shot setting. Where I just, I've done everything top to bottom. These are the gods. This is this. This is that. This is that.
Is this
Because I
a
know
setting
everything
that
about it.
if you support us on Patreon, you could play games in, Jake?
Potentially, but we're not plugging Patreon not right now because we
Sorry.
don't have anything on Patreon yet.
Whoops. Getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes, I believe that is your fault, Helena.
Don't.
I'm sorry.
Guys, let
No
me
arguing
talk
right now.
about world building.
Go on. I'm listening.
So,
I'm sorry, Helen.
I'm just trying to build the bridge.
anyways. So,
You're winging it method.
yeah, no, I wouldn't call it winging it. So,
No, it's
your creation begins here. You try to have a respectable idea of what your creation myth is. From there, you try to basically you make a large playground of a city.
or a region or whatever. City
Or-
is the easiest one to think of.
City is the easiest one to do, like a metropolis, like a 1 million person city, like a very large city, maybe not the most important place in your setting, but definitely important enough that your players would feel like there's a lot to do here. There's criminal enterprise going on. There's, military actions going on. There's
Maybe a nice island, so maybe there's some smuggling.
there's
Piracy.
it's-
Certainly waterfront, at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put it on the waterfront, so that way there is options.
Yeah. Ways to get there.
I mean, we
And-
played in the same city for a year in your campaign setting, and
Yeah.
we still felt like we had things to do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the point.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. But the main idea of building a world this way is you let your players help you build the world. So when everybody sits down at session 0, and you go, all right, well, what do you want to play? And they go, well, I want to play a monk. You're like, cool.
Tell me about your order.
Yeah, tell me about your monastery.
Yep.
What kind of monastery are you from? And it's great if you play with like a lot of the same people and you're wanting to get into DMing for the first time. And you've got like your little D&D group, your little
Your,
D&D
your
buddies.
crew, if you will.
Yeah, your
the
squad, if you will.
Your
Because
party.
Squad.
it ultimately becomes like it's
Their city.
their city. It's their, like, Andrew, who's watching right now, Paul, who's sitting here at the table, Clint, who's sitting here at the table, and Helen, who's sitting here at the table. They all have bits of my world that they're invested in because there's stuff that I just leave blank because I'm like, I'd rather have players do it.
Yeah. Frankly, it's the first thing of work is see if you can get somebody else to do it.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
Jake's very kind about this. Clint and I both have a lot of like pet NPCs.
Yes.
But I'm going to let Jake explain it, obviously,
Well,
because
the-
I've already ruined his earlier topic. So.
The entire conceit behind it is you play more of an editor.
Yeah, makes sense.
You let them bring content to you. I mean, and then you add content where you still want it. Like, ultimately, I still have control over my pantheon. I still have control over the geopolitics. I still have control over all the major cities and their design and all their philosophies and whatnot. But I still let my players make very big, dramatic changes or additions to my world.
I mean, just like you said in the last game that I actually played in, because I've been a very busy boy the last 3 weeks.
Oh, you're gonna be real mad on Wednesday.
Lots of things have happened.
Yeah, no. Just like you said, Aylin's fallen to shit, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like you have to embrace the chaos of players changing your world.
Yeah, because I mean, you can set up a nice playground and all, but you have to realize at the end of the day, your players are going to run around like,
Yeah, you can build
preschoolers kicking over all your sandcastles.
you can build the
Because they
playground
can.
all you want, but if a bunch of 5th graders decide to rip the monkey bars out of the ground, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is
True story,
nothing
seen
more
it done.
dangerous than a PC who has a good idea. Or a good idea.
I'm looking at you, Nacho.
Harsh.
Nacho has Hendersoned so many things. Nacho could Henderson almost anything if he really wanted to.
Oh, I know. Nacho is a deadly adversary because you always underestimate him.
But let's seriously say here for a moment. At the end of the day, the only person you're trying to please is yourself and your players.
Yeah.
And the best way to do this is not to say no. This is how it works. To say yes and or yes but.
So, with this method of world creation where you start at the center, like again, you still want to make your gods, you still want to have a couple of, like very clear things set in stone, right? But you just start everybody in the city. And then when they ask questions, you give them answers. Or if they have things like, I am from this kingdom and our king is dying and I'm seeking a cure and I'm traveling the land. Cool. Well, now I've come up with this kingdom. We can work together on
We'll
making
fit it in. And then maybe it'll be a plot hook later.
Yeah.
That's effective GMing.
It is. It's effective game mastering, and it's also just good for world building because you're just like, oh, well, cool. I wouldn't have thought of that because ultimately, one of the nice things about this is it allows you to not get way too into your own shit. With
Get on
It
the
allows
high
you to
horse.
step back.
it allows you to take a step back and just like because you're constantly working with other people, so you both got each other to bounce ideas off of. One of the conceits, because I've had this happen, like when I've just done some solo developing on my own world, and I've just done stuff like I've just done it and done it and done it. I was like, that's cool, right? And then people are like, no, that's terrible, and I'm like, wow, damn.
I think the worst thing I did was
How much time did you spend on that?
A couple weeks.
A lot.
I get there, I write for like a full couple days, and I bring. I was like, huh. How about this major and easily? How about this major plot hole that you didn't notice that completely invalidates everything you wrote? And like it says,
Whoops.
it's a first draft.
Well, piggybacking off of, I think it was what Jake said earlier when he was talking about, you have your squad. You're the DM/GM, whichever term you prefer, and
lots
you
of
have
terms.
all of your players. And let's say you have a party of 5, and
good
one of
size.
them can't show up, so you only have 4. So you say, hey guys, let's run a one shot. Use the one shot to help flesh out the world. I mean that's a tip that I've done a few times now with my players that I picked up from Jake.
Yeah,
we started playing a one shot one day, and I started to recognize some of the locations and realized we're actually in Jake's campaign setting, Aylin.
Yeah. And then we set some stuff up, and there was a time skip, and now I'm trying to keep, my player knowledge and character knowledge separate because our characters in the
We'll
main
talk about
campaign-
metagaming,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's a different episode, but
I've
still,
had
it's
characters.
helpful.
I've had characters that I've played in either short campaigns or one shots with Jake come back and bite my main character in the ass.
That's the best part, honestly.
It's called recycling.
Yes, I mean,
Great
honestly,
writer.
It's called
Still?
being an evil genius.
Jake has
You're
made
putting
me
way too
play.
much. You're putting way too much.
Jake's made me play my characters from different games in the same scene multiple times. So I'm playing. Okay, Paul, sit down and play all 3 of your characters
He
at once.
literally did that on Wednesday. It was gold.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's an awful thing you can do to your players, but I highly recommend it.
That's why I kind of, as a player, that's why I kind of like to always have like an affectation for my character, or maybe like a hat or something that I wear, or like an accessory that I wear. So if I have to do that, I can just be like, no,
There's
I'm
some
me. No,
confusion
I'm not.
between my
So-
characters because I'm not very good at voice acting. So
That's another episode. Yeah.
Let's get back to main world building, though.
Yes.
World building.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a bunch of ways you can flesh stuff out, but that comes to storytelling, like more the one shot kind of stuff. But when it gets to hard world building, obviously consistency is key, and so we're gonna talk
Again, it has
about
to be believable.
yeah, it's got to be believable. So let's
It
start.
has to be realistic. Just believable.
No, we're gonna do all this together. I've got my little
Yeah.
notepad here. We're gonna build the one thing together in our campaign setting because all of us have like pretty much direct control over different things.
Yes.
We're all kind of working with each other on different aspects of this project. But this is let's sit down. Let's make that one city that is just the actual, this would be the starting point. This is where you launch players into your settings. 'Cause
This is where the first tavern is.
I've heard, I've looked and I've read and I've talked about a lot of the stuff that all of us are working on and how we're doing it. And our setting is cool, but our setting does not make it's not there's no place that is truly amazing for a very varied and different party.
Where do you gather the misfits? And I'm telling you where. And I'm going to start us off with a name.
Oh,
Riragon.
spell that.
Riragon.
All right.
Okay. All right. So you've done the hard part.
Yeah, that's
The
Put a name.
names are hard, I have to tell you.
There are many options online for name generators, which
Yes.
you can turn to.
Yeah, just go to Fantasy Name Generator.
Fantasy name generator has saved my ass more times I can count on my
One of
fingers
these days,
and toes.
one of these days, I'm just gonna get a shirt from
Yeah,
them.
can I just like
Do they sell shirts?
when I get
I
money
don't know, but I want one.
from my most recent project, I'm just gonna give them like $20 for everything they've done for me. Like, I'm sure they have a Patreon page or something. So
Yeah,
but
we're going to be posting a lot of resources that we recommend all the time, like map generators, name generators, and stuff on our actual webpage when it's up and running, which will be soon.
all right, so Riragon.
I promise.
Let's
Yep.
talk about Riragon.
Let's talk about it.
Beautiful Riragon.
What does it look like? It's a big city. How big are we talking?
It is. I am in charge of geography and maps, and I've decided that this is an island. We talked about this a little in the car.
Yep.
Perhaps just a bit off the coast to avoid
Yeah,
serious problems
it's
with
a-
trade.
yeah,
with
it's
the
an
natives.
island that's near the coast.
We did like some light legwork before this, and it's like, all right, so what do we want to base this multicultural cosmopolitan city off of? And we're like, Hong Kong,
Hong Kong is a good choice
because
it's also
Hong
not
Kong's
one,
awesome.
It's also not
Oh,
one that you
absolutely.
usually see. So
Yeah,
it's not something you see in medieval fantasies. You're not going to see the boat cities of Hong Kong strung together.
yeah, which
Right.
is or the Kowloon walled city, which are a ripping pepperonis, but still,
I'm sure it can
wait,
rip
actually,
in pieces forever. You
The
know,
boat
but
thing is Tortuga. My bad.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's Tortuga. Smooth.
Moving on. Yes, I make
Logwood
mistakes. I'm
City,
sorry.
shout out.
I'm just giving you,
Drift Castle,
So no,
Logwood,
but if
And from
all right,
Summer
no,
Sea,
so
which are-
so we're doing Hong Kong, right?
Yep.
But we're not doing Hong Kong in the sense that it's a Chinese. This is everyone meets up here.
Yes.
Right,
So
as
this is
a
by happy
trade center,
accident. Yeah, by
yeah.
happy accident.
It hits several
Hong Kong
main
and,
trade routes.
Yeah, thanks to different politics and
It's in
stuff.
a nice climate.
Yeah, it's in a nice climate. It's
So-
between several different countries. It was its own municipality, and it ultimately became a trading hub for both the British, the India, China, Portuguese, Japan. So it just wound up becoming this multinational port where all these governments that didn't like each other but wanted each other's money would just meet and do deals,
So,
which
Helen,
is Hong Kong abridged.
Yes.
you are in charge of geography.
Yes. I have
This place has to be in a serious position where it can be meeting multiple empires, yet not being able to be easily conquered by any of them.
Right.
Describe
Hence an island. So, because we are all, this is why map building is really difficult in a team unless you already have sort of what everybody's thinking. I was thinking not unlike in Game of Thrones where we had some real scorching takes in the car about George R. R.
We're not
Martin and
gonna
Game
say
of Thrones,
anything
and we're not
about
going to
that.
talk about this. We've decided before the show.
Paul,
we're
you're
not
my
gonna
good
talk
friend,
about
and
it.
Helen, I love you, but
Yeah, we're not going to talk about this, but I like
Would
the
we
sort of
said
shape,
enough.
the geographic
Wait,
shape
do we
of
have the
world.
table split again about George R. R. Martin?
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're not going to talk
We're
about
not going to
We're
talk
not
about
gonna
this. There's going to be some fighting.
Thank you, Clint. So that sort of shape of the world where there's sort of like one big long continent on the one side and like an island or two in the middle and then another big long continent on the other side. And maybe...
World of Warcraft style.
Yeah, exactly. Very communally. Yeah, I'm going to play around with it. There's a lot of hexes you can do in that...
I have some hot takes I want to talk about you with about the dwarves that I'm designing, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, we'll get on Discord and shout at each other later when I'm at home and I can have wine. But...
So, describe.
So yeah, this
Riragon.
island would be the island of Riragon would be about actually how large Hong Kong is, because I was thinking about that because I wasn't talking much while we were driving because I had to do some creative merging on 275, which if you're from Michigan, you understand. But the city would, or the island would not be that large. It would be in a warm climate, not as. Again, being a Michigander, I think the actual climate of real life Hong Kong would be dreadful to live in because it's hot and humid.
So we're talking temperate forest, basically.
Yeah, maybe temperate. Yeah, but a little warmer than that. Maybe
But it
sort
never
of
gets
Carolinas.
snowy.
Yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah, Carolinas.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Maybe not the swamps of Charleston, but yeah, that way a little mountainy, a swampy part and a ford on one side, sort of like Mont Saint Michel, where at like super low tide you can actually just walk to the mainland. But otherwise, it's either a swamp that you need a boat to get to, or not unlike the Netherlands, where there are dikes and farming, but you can just unlock the gate if you need to flood out. Oh, I don't know, like the Nazis coming at you or something like that.
Hopefully we're not gonna have any.
Yeah,
Nazis.
hopefully not that sort of problem. But yeah, invading, orcs or what have you, or not
So
to
you
not
can't
to
invade
conflate orcs.
without
I'm sure
a
orcs are-
big.
So, which, by the way, just so we're actually square, the actual area for Hong Kong is 1,063 square miles.
Okay.
It's about half the size of Chicago. It works.
Yeah.
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 So it's
Big, but really not that big.
So it's going to be. How does it get food? Mostly fishing, do you think? Or?
Yeah, I would say fishing and
At least locally, you would think.
yeah, fishing and then also using the swamp for food. I'm big into saltwater swamps, and so I'm gonna go to town with this because it would be approachable on one side by a river that would be part of the main trade route. There would be this island would be partially a delta sandbar, but not fully because as a geologist, I know that building on a delta sandbar is stupid.
Honestly, building
Don't
this
do it.
location is stupid anyway, but there's magic.
No,
so
anyway, maybe there's like a nice igneous dome. Again, giving map making to
it's
the
an
geologist.
intrusion.
okay.
I might go too far, but
moving
no, it's
on.
gonna be beautiful. There's like a salt marsh and a river that leads to the marsh, and then the island is like.
You know,
Okay.
at the
like
edge
half
of the
a mile off
delta.
the coast?
Yeah, half
Yeah.
a mile off the coast.
So
Enough
they
that you definitely
farm-
need a boat.
What do they farm and what they fish? Obviously, what do they farm? when can?
They grow rice in the saltwater swamp by using a freshwater replacement system due to magic somehow. And then,
Water
Yeah,
elementals.
water elementals probably. And then farming, eating a lot of seafood, and birds.
Okay, works for me.
Birds
Okay,
and eggs,
so-
yeah.
Makes sense.
So it's a trade route between, let's say, 4 major powers. We're not going to detail them too much, but
Yeah, let's say
they'll-
4 meet there. That's
Well,
easy.
more importantly, though,
you can get
go.
there
so,
from anywhere.
So we know, So we know that because we've kind of painted who our major powers are going to be. It's the dwarves, the humans, the dragonborns. We don't know how you feel about elves yet, Clint. You've been
The elves would definitely be that fourth power.
Okay.
I guess I don't. When I was talking about that, I was just saying like I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with them in detail quite yet.
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But,
Yes.
But moving on. So
But yeah, they would be the fourth superpower as far as that's concerned.
okay, then that brings us to this little bit. Whose island is this actually? Like,
that's a tough question.
who
I
has?
would say that this
I'm
island-
gonna put something out here. I'm gonna throw it out there. You can toss it right back if you don't like it.
I'm listening.
Lizard folk.
That's a good one. I like that.
That's a good
it's
one,
right
but
next to a marsh. So.
I was actually going to say,
Yeah.
yeah, that's nice, but I was actually going to say maybe a water elemental. That's how they can get fresh water there. And
They
the
have
lizard
druids
per-
though. They got druids.
Yeah, they got druids.
Well, I'm thinking is, so lizard folk.
Well,
but,
we were
but
talking about gods and nature spirits earlier.
get the
Jake.
spicy take.
Yeah.
Lizard folk, but ruled by a gold dragon
Ooh, love it.
as their god empress.
Love it.
Yeah, tight.
So
She's
that's
lazy,
so
but-
that right there is that. There's your explanation right there for why the island won't be conquered.
Do you want to mess?
dragon.
Do you want to mess with a great worm gold dragon?
because a gold dragon is sitting on top of it like fight me.
Yeah.
Want it?
Come at
If
me.
you want it, come get some.
Molon Lab.
All right,
Yeah. And
so,
so the lizards, fish, but they also the
Clint,
lizard folk-
get your phone out. We need a dragon name. Go.
Oh man.
A pulsarax. There we go.
Oh, damn.
Oh,
Paul, you're good.
jeez.
Look, I've done this for a
Killing it.
long time. Okay.
I'm just gonna spell that phonetically. Deal with me.
APALSERAX.
I'm also a big fan of BehindTheName.com, which, if you're looking for player names especially, you can look names up by meaning, which is cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
But so we've got a pulsarax. She's controlling all these lizard folk who live here because it's near the water, and lizard folk need to lay their eggs in or near water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the
So
delicious swamp.
that being said, she's a gold dragon, which I'm assuming we're following the general rules that gold dragons are generally good aligned.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she wants everyone to come trade with her to expand her horde as she takes. How about 10%? Is 10% something?
Not even
reasonable
10%.
to
Let's
trade?
go something so small that it doesn't seem like people are getting ripped off.
1%, 2% maybe.
Yeah, 2%. She takes 2% of every trade deal done here.
And
you
she
know,
just
which
sits on it, of course.
But it's such a booming hub at this point that and that's why everybody goes there. She only takes 2%, but that 2% adds up big time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when everyone's coming here because you've got the lowest taxes, you make money, especially when you don't need to spend any taxes because you can say, "I will dragon breath you if you don't do this."
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
strictly controlled by the lizard folk. They're like the bankers, but also like the druids of.
Wages?
They're not very.
What
the
are
thing is
wages?
that lizard folk don't care much about like.
So
gold.
we'll say that the
Well,
salt.
they love their
All right,
dragon mom.
Let's talk a little bit about religion too here. So we'll say that
Oh, let me pull up our document, Jake.
yeah. So let's say that the salt marsh is sacred to the lizard folk, and only lizard folk are allowed there.
Yeah.
They don't want no one playing in their playground.
anyone can
right.
come to the city, but nobody can. Anyone
Yeah,
can
you-
come to
you
Ririgami.
cannot
You
go
can't come
fishing
to
in
the
the
marsh.
salt
No one
marsh,
can
yeah.
really see it, but I've got a little notepad here, and I'm just doing some doodling. Let me just say hi from off screen really quick. So if y'all can see that is about about a eighth of the landmass is salt marsh. Everything else is city, right?
City or mountain, basically.
Yeah, I also want to have it be an igneous rock promontory with a gold vein in it, and that's why the dragon nested there in the first place.
That makes sense to me.
So yeah, gold vein up in the mountains. We'll have the mountains in the north, south, salt marsh in the south, and then the whole thing is just except for the northern part because there's a big igneous.
There's just
Big
one
pointy-ass
huge
mountain where the
lone
dragon
mountain.
chills. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
The
a mountain, but
dragon's
then
nest.
also too, a bunch of nasty underwater things. So like maybe that northern eighth is
are-
very inaccessible
We are
from
in
the
a
ocean.
sort of coastal area, so why not have it be a coral reef, like an expansive coral reef?
Yeah.
That makes it difficult to ship in except in specific lanes.
Yeah, exactly. And with
Yeah,
the salt
but-
marsh and with the tide, there would probably be only one area where the harbor would go. I'm going to play around with this a lot in the island. I'll probably go ahead and do a detail of Reargon.
So
Yeah, Jake, that's beautiful. That's exactly how I was thinking.
no, that is ugly. But
Well, it's not
It's
ugly,
as
but it's
beautiful
very
as
simple.
you can doodle in 5 minutes.
yeah,
so.
Yeah.
So
It's a schematic.
Yeah, so 60% of the landmass can be accessed by ships from both sides.
And 1/40th is completely cut off.
Yep.
So it's very defensible. Now, so we've got why the dragon is here. We've got what the dragon wants, money. And it's between a bunch of major powers. So that sounds like everyone's going to want to come here with the low taxes and trade,
Yep.
which is obviously what people do. So why do people stay who aren't lizard folk coming to worship their god Empress?
Great financial opportunity.
Exactly.
Low
you have so
corporate
many. You have
taxes.
you have so many people coming in from around the world, whether they be dragonborn, elves, dwarves, humans, whatever they may be. When they bring their goods in, they're not just coming in, staying at port, and then leaving that same day. They have to have a place to stay. They have to have food to eat. They have to have things to drink. You stay there. You open up a tavern. You start making a killing off of for international traders,
Yeah, works for me.
and they're making international money.
So
You got to think.
Just gold.
Well, you got to think too. Every major power would want to have somebody like their major companies that are making
Embassies.
them money and bringing stuff back. They are going to want to have a slice of that pie.
And no major power, if we're talking, large shipments of anything, is going to be stupid and send one ship. They'll send a whole fleet.
Yeah.
They will send multiple ships to protect
their investments.
their investments that are going to trade. So then you have, instead of just one ship at that point, now you have 5, say, the 4 to defend the main one. And
Yeah, and on top of that,
there you
even
go.
if somebody does decide, I'm just going to take this pie. You've got a Pulse Rex there being like, you sure about that? You sure about that?
again, fight me.
It's a sort of thing that Hong Kong didn't have to protect it in the past, which is there wasn't exactly like a 80-foot long dragon saying, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of protection. It's a safe haven, so to speak. It's where you can go to get lost and to find yourself.
Okay. So, gang, we've got a bit of the geography figured out.
Yep.
Right. And we got our infrastructure figured out.
Yep.
We know why people are there, why people want to be there. We've got our god reason figured out. Now it's not even directly a real god, but a worm gold dragon is close enough for me.
1,000-year-old gold dragons. Not to be messed with.
1,500-year-old gold dragon that can just literally elbow drop you out of existence.
Elbow drop a frigate into oblivion.
Yeah, I'll accept that too. All right, so if we go back to the primary stuff, we've got geography nailed. We've got the movers and shakers pretty much figured out. Every country wants a slice of.
So you've got all your
Reargon.
embassies there. You've got sort of a Cold War spy game going on where everyone is trying to mess with everyone else's trade that they're at war with.
Yeah, who wants to play a game in Reargon when we get home?
But
Oh, yeah.
you can't get directly about it because otherwise a Pulse Rex will get mad.
We'll play a game of diplomacy.
Or she'll
Yeah.
send in her lizards.
Yes.
Game
Alright.
of
Her
diplomacy.
lizard-
at
Her crack
Reargon.
lizard squad. They're frogmen, but they're lizard men instead.
All right, so our creation
Crab
mythos
people.
doesn't really matter here right now.
It does not.
No,
We're doing
no.
bottom up rather than top down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other
But,
than that, obviously we have dragons and we've got this sort of
yeah, we know there's dragons.
geologically plausible.
As far as your players are concerned, by the way, just before we go further, I want to note
got-
this. Since we're going in this bottom-up strategy, you drop them in here, and as far as they should care, as long as this city is fleshed out well enough, the water could just go on forever, according to them, if they were born on this island.
Yeah.
They could not know. What are you guys laughing about over there?
Nothing, just a comment. Somebody was saying,
Just
Jake's face
Fado.
isn't in screen. No, thanks, Fado, for doing the comments. No, Jake's
Just
still
Fado.
here.
Yeah. No,
So-
don't worry, Joe. I'm here. I'm just off screen today.
He's here.
We got a little table.
Yeah, we got our webcams a bit messed up. Whatever. So we've got the why. We've got the people. We got the movers and shakers. I'm pretty sure we've got believability down.
Oh yeah.
We've got
Magic
magic with
is
the
the
water
last-
elementals, but
No, magic is the last major one, though. Is there something inherently magical or something unique?
Is
about
this is this
place?
in the world that we're going to be building this month?
Yes.
yes,
No, because I have come up for the reason of magic in our world.
I'm listening.
It's a pretty simple explanation. It could be viewed as the easy way out, but I'm a big fan of this explanation.
Nothing wrong with the easy way out. Water finds the lowest path.
So no different than any other force of nature, magic just kind of exists. It's no different than a gravity or friction or tension or something like that. It's something that is just there. And through different understanding, whether it be, say, you're a wizard and you learn about it like more than anyone else, you can learn how to manipulate said thing.
So, brief question. As I'm actually into
Yes.
the history of the world, I'm going to say it existed before the gods showed up.
Okay.
And that's why the gods showed up.
That
We'll
works.
get to that later.
Yeah.
So, can anyone do magic? Is it required to be inborn, or
No,
do you just get it?
realistically speaking, I mean, based off of, and it's kind of metagaming, but I feel like world building should be metagaming to a certain
Well,
extent.
I mean, we're just it's
If you
straight
b- if you-
creation.
look
crowbar
at-
the
if you
setting to
look
fit
at the
rules, or
classes-
the rules to fit the setting.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's the question for the next episode. I gotta tell
Yeah,
you.
No,
because
no,
I mean,
no,
like,
let's-
if, no,
let's do
well,
that
if
right
you
now.
look at,
That's actually good
if
stuff.
you
Let's do
look
that right
at,
now.
if you look at the classes, look at all of the magic-based classes, whether they be full casters or half casters. In some way, shape, or form, you either A, have to be born with it, or B, you can learn how to channel it. So I guess the answer is both. Like, if you're a sorcerer, you're born with the ability to do that.
So what you're
But
saying
wizards
is
can learn it from above.
you can learn it, but it's much harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to work really hard to learn it.
You could
Anyone
be
can
you could
become
be
a wizard,
born. Yeah, you
but-
could be born and a god just be like, here you go, here's some powers. Or you're born with, like in my campaign set, I don't know about this one for as far as sorcerers go, but if you're born with the blood of dragons, then you're just born with an inherent magical ability.
There's actually another good question. Does a Pulsarax have any spawn?
You know, let's say she does. A lot of governance, though. You know, good dragon putting her children basically in positions of power throughout the city because this is their little nest.
Makes
right.
sense.
But I do love the idea of shadow games being played between multiple governments trying to get a foot and a leg up on
And
each
the
other.
dragons
Or
being
even other metallic dragons.
play nice
Even-
now. Don't
yeah.
mess with any traitors or civilians.
Yeah. You know, every now and again, you know, they have to crack down on an embassy and stuff.
You
and
get a bunch
occasionally-
of gold dragonborn kicking in a door and arresting all the spies.
Yeah, no, it's you know, the one conceit that I love about building from a city and then going outward is you can just make that city really awesome. There is a, you know, and this just gets back to the main theme of world building. For me, I've always found it a bit difficult when I'm just making a bunch of city. It feels like I'm building a subdivision. I'm like, all right, and there's a city there, and
There's a problem.
and we'll put one there, and we'll put one over there, you know. And it's like eventually I'll decorate the interior, but they all kind of look the same from the outside.
Yeah, it's a problem.
You know, when you just sit there and you're just like, people have to be in this city. How is this city going to be cool?
Yeah.
Right.
I think you can get a lot more intimate detail with a location.
Yeah.
So, but to move back to Raragon. So we've got Dragonborn, we've got half dragons, we have full but much younger dragons. So we have a Pulsarax sitting basically on top, whether that be on an enormous spire or maybe on the mountain flying down
There's
occasionally.
there's a spire, but there's a cave beneath where she keeps her gold and goes to sleep, but she sits on the spire to look.
She must widen it ever
Yeah.
more, and she gets her children to watch it.
So let's talk about just one more important detail. Let's talk about military.
Yes.
Because, I mean, other than the fact that they have a gold worm dragon as...
Which is a big threat, but you can't have her like walking the streets getting ready to knock people out if they're causing trouble in the alley.
Yeah,
She's
no,
got a
but
pile of gold to
she's
roll
no.
on.
I'm
She's busy.
not talking about, you know, local governance. I'm talking military deterrent.
Yes.
You
Other
know,
than having a gold
like,
dragon.
you know, because a gold dragon as a military deterrent is a really good military.
But you need
deterrent.
more than that.
The way that I'm envisioning this island would be set up would be that the way nature is, also because I'm the naturalist among this group. Like I have a Bachelor of Science in a natural history field, and I'm gonna make sure this all actually works.
Hey, I'm working for it in geography too.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but
Geology, sorry. There you go. Whatever.
yeah, but you know, making sure that the
geography is just
swamp
land
and the
geologists.
currents and the ocean would be its protection. There would be many reefs around, so if you came up with a bunch of boats, damn, you better be real careful and go in the right exact spot. And if you go in the right exact spot, the dragons are going to come after you.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Unless you go in the main trade lane.
So-
honestly.
Really quick, I think we're going to go take 5 minutes. How's everybody feel about going an extra half hour today?
I could do it.
I'm good with it.
I'm tired. Sorry.
That's fair.
Is that a yes or a no?
We can, yeah. You guys all want
Okay.
to.
I'm sorry.
Also, just like my legs hurt when I was skating the other day.
Yeah, as long as we take 5.
Yeah,
I
no.
can go another half hour.
Yeah, we're going to take 5. We're going to go for another half hour today. But before we go, let's talk about our giveaway. We're trying to build our page. We're trying to build our brand. So we are doing a giveaway. We're going to give away 2 books to 2 completely different winners when our Facebook page, the 3DMs Podcast Facebook page, our actual Facebook page, gets up to 500 likes. So if you're enjoying the content or you just want to win a book, I'm easy either
I wouldn't
way.
blame you. Winning books is fun.
Head to our Facebook page, give our Facebook page a like. Once we get to 500 likes, we're going to pick 2 of you at random, and we're going to send you any D&D 5e book that you want. Could be something from Kobold Press, could be something, from the main lineup. Doesn't matter as long as it's not a special edition, because
Those are too hard to get our hands on.
yeah, them's expensive.
Yeah, you don't need to be a new like. You can have liked us from the beginning, and you can still
You
be
will
picked.
still be entered.
Yep.
But not us, obviously.
Anybody from the dawn of time, as long as it's not one of us, can
Or
win
you,
this
Nacho.
contest. Because we all like our own page. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and we're going to come back, and we're going to finish off our world building part 1 discussion, because
We've certainly gotten a long way. I
this
gotta
is a
say.
big topic. So
World building is fun.
we'll be right back, guys.
It is fun.
Turn the mic off for a second. Yeah. Also, too, this will give us opportunity to move the webcam back.
So, well, it's just you and me here. Shall we talk briefly about the military structure of Ruragon?
Sure.
So, I mean, obviously they need somewhat of a naval force, but they're not going to need a huge land-bound army. With that being said, with all the loyal Dragonborn militia, how is their militia formed with the lizard folk and the Dragonborn?
How is the?
Militia, so to speak.
I don't know. God.
So is it ruled primarily by Dragonborn
All right,
officers, or?
Live talk back on. Mics are live, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're live again. Excellent.
So I was instructed. Jake will be joining us here in just a few minutes to give you guys the contest spiel one more time, real quick. When our page gets to our actual Facebook page gets to 500 likes, we are going to be doing a book giveaway. Any non-special edition 5e book.
Yeah, from anywhere you want, as long as it's not one of the special editions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, Jeff, thanks for tuning in for the first time. That's right, we do gotta move the camera because we put it closer to the table to try and get a more crisper picture of all our beautiful vintage books. But also we gotta move it back so Jake can be in frame. So yeah, it is shaking. You're right. That's definitely you.
We
or rather,
apologize.
it's definitely us. Thanks for pointing it out.
It's not our best week. We're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But thank you for tuning in, even so.
I'm sorry that you guys have to listen to me open up this Fritos bag.
Podcasting etiquette, Clint.
As is tradition.
Dude, you gotta have show fuel. You gotta have a beverage. You gotta have some snackies.
Okay. Yeah, let's scooch together a bit so we can get Jake on camera, too.
Yeah, for once.
Okay. So, yeah. How exciting.
Also breaking the studio here. Sorry.
I didn't mean to hit the bell.
We may need to scooch over. Oh, no, we're fine.
Yeah, so quick answer to Jeffrey, by the way. Thanks for tuning in, bud, by the way. So really quick, yeah, no, we just fixed our camera. Like we got here a little late at the studio today, so the camera was set up a little poorly, and we just didn't want to do it halfway through the show, so we took a break, make sure everything got done.
Too late, we just did it.
Did you guys say that it was he was a first time viewer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
our page.
on the spiel of the book, just to follow that up, for all of our first time viewers, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate.
We're glad to have you with us.
Yeah, we appreciate your viewership. Shoot us a like, share the video,
Hope you enjoy.
so that way we can continue to bring this type of content to you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
So, let's get back into it then. I'll let
So-
you lead, Jake.
Okay, guys, we've set up this city, so let's reset the table for everybody who's now joining us. So it's January, new year, new world. We're going to be doing a world building series, and all of us. I'm Jake. That's Clint. Say hi, Clint.
What's up?
This is an audio podcast.
Yeah, this is
Clint.
an audio podcast. You got
Dude, I had Fritos in my mouth.
That's bad podcasting
happens.
etiquette.
No, I was really hoping for you to just go hard. And Paul,
Insert Fairway
Yes,
voice because
I'm
my
Paul.
mouth is full.
Yeah, Paul and Helen, who always joins us.
Thank you.
So it's
Let's set the
the
table.
four of us. We are 3 DMs. We are doing world building, and we are discussing how we build a world. We're doing this thing where all of us have bits of the world. We're all putting it together, and by the end of the month, we're hoping to have something really cool to present to all of you, like an actual play-inable setting.
Why don't we real quick just go around the table? I'll start and we'll talk. We'll just list the things that we're in charge of.
Briefly.
Yeah, just real briefly.
Hammer
For
down.
like
Go.
for example, I'm in charge of coming up with why magic exists, where it comes from, elves and dragons and dragonborn.
Okay, I'm in charge of history, infrastructure and economics, and dwarves, which is good because I like dwarves.
I got geography and map, my favorite, gnomes, and part of the gods.
Yeah, I have the
Gods
other
part.
half of the gods. I have dungeons, because
Aren't you
dungeons.
happy?
How are you going to have dungeons without dragons? I got to tell
Exactly.
you, vice versa.
And humanity. Oh, the manatee.
Humans.
Yes. So, we're talking about, right now we're building a live city. Everybody to work on. And so, it's called Ruragon. It's like Hong Kong. Gold Dragon lives there. Lizard folk live there. And every major civilization has
An embassy or a company or a corporation.
embassy, company, just a bit of the pie, a little bit of the pie. So,
It's a big trading center protected
We've-
by this gold dragon.
yeah, we've already talked about economics, who lives there, why, the geography, the terrain,
This is a sort of example of a town you would want your party to meet up in. On
Yeah,
the
this is
first-
where all the
first
misfits
session.
meet up because they're washed up members of the East India Trading Company or
Yeah.
something.
And they
So,
wanted to
if
eat some
you-
delicious salt marsh clams.
If you are just joining us, this video will be available in retrospect, so you can go back and actually see all of the details of building up to this, but this is just the short rundown of what we did before right now as we continue.
As
So-
we're about to move on.
Let's talk about culture.
Okay.
Yes.
Because this is another pitfall I see a lot of people who start doing world building fall into, and it's like I don't want this to come off rude to a lot of people because it happens like you make a city and then you make another city and then you make another city and then if you're not careful, things are very similar between cities.
Yeah.
And that's a very easy pitfall to fall in because you're a normal person. You
don't
don't
have
have
infinite
all
time.
the time in the world to work on this stuff.
And that's probably my biggest thing with my world, I would say. One of the biggest things that I need to work on is figuring out individual cultures of cities and
Nations.
things like that. Actually, I feel like where earlier we were talking about the foundation of this house, at this point, culture is where we start putting up the walls of the house, and it
Oh
really
no!
starts
The
to.
walls are up. Everything's been built. Now this is
This is like furniture then.
yeah.
We're putting up the
We're decorating the house at this point. We're adding the flavor that actually creates your world and makes it feel real.
the carpets and chairs.
So
and
guys,
the crown molding, of course.
Reargon, as we have decided, is a massive blending of cultures. We've got dwarven culture, elven culture, human culture, orcish culture,
Lizard and dragon folk.
lizard folk,
Dominated by
and
lizards and dragon folk.
yeah,
of course.
lizard folk, dragonborn, and dragons themselves. All of them have a cultural stake here, and everybody has to play nice.
Else you risk the wrath of the mistress,
Yeah.
a Pulsarax,
Mama
who would have a
dragon.
word with you. if you
So-
chose otherwise.
How does this culture shake out? Let's see. We've got the guy working on dwarves, and we got the guy working on elves here. So, what's dwarven and elven relations like?
Yeah, how do the dwarves feel about the elves?
They make excellent sacrifices to their sun god.
Ooh, damn.
Ooh, wow, yeah, that's harsh.
Yeah, this is one of the few places that the dwarves are not actively trying to hunt other cultures because they believe them to be inferior and not worthy of the light of the sun. Yeah, I know it's pretty
Don't dwarves
dark.
live
So bear with me.
underground?
Yeah.
Some of them do. Hill dwarves don't.
Okay.
They're from the hills.
Yes, they're from the hills and
You can live under it.
something like they have eyes. I don't know. Something
Yikes.
like that. So basically, the dwarves are here because they realize that they can't live entirely on raiding other civilizations for money and food. So at some point, they have to come and actually trade in this treasure for other stuff, which is, of course, their business interests here.
Money can be exchanged for goods and services.
Money will be exchanged for goods and services.
Also, Duncan points out, I love world building.
I do
Same,
too.
man. Keep listening.
So yeah, that's why they're here. Is they are here mostly because obviously a Pulsarax as a gold dragon is good and would not dare to allow engaging in slave trade here.
Yeah.
But she is willing to let them come and trade their conquered treasure with a careful eye kept on their activities.
Okay.
Okay.
What about elves?
Elves have the attitude based off of just as Paul was saying with the dwarven culture of they like to sacrifice people to their gods and they ransack towns and everything. And it makes sense with the elven race in the book getting the intelligence bonus. They like to think that the customs of the dwarves are barbaric, but they are not going to like actively try to get involved with that because they sound a lot like Vikings, and not many people want to mess with Vikings. It's just,
Fair.
it's not,
So-
it's not smart.
So let's talk about that cultural interchange, though.
So you can't fight each other or the dragon will get upset, and you really don't want that to happen.
Do they fight each other elsewhere?
Of course.
Oh,
but not
yeah, of
inside
course.
city
Yeah,
limits.
so we're only talking about Reargon, but okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they would fight if there wasn't a dragon. Like,
Yes, 100%.
watching them.
So there's this very icy demeanor between them. So there
Yeah.
not much cultural crossover. You don't like get unique foods that are made in a
Well, of course
Not,
you do.
yeah, I mean,
but-
you would because obviously, as there are to every single rule in the book, there are exceptions.
And Reargon's the place for such exceptions. Where
Exactly.
you go if you don't fit in with your culture.
fair. Okay.
There,
you needed the
but
dwarves
not
and
to get
armor.
it confused, there still are elves on Reargon that think that the dwarves are mindless beasts, and I'm sure that there are dwarves in Reargon that just think that the
Elves are
elves,
too weak to
all
be
the
allowed
all
to
the
live.
book learning that the elves do is for sissies.
The birds.
For
Oh, yeah.
nerds.
Yeah, nerd.
Nerds.
All right.
But to make a long story short, this is where they can't fight. So this is in fact where cultural interchange is forced to happen.
Right.
Because if you can't fight, you can at least argue and haggle with each other.
Yeah. So let's talk about the two other staunchest enemies on the board, the Dragonborn and the humans,
Okay.
because they don't get along.
No, not at all.
So, Clint, since I
Yeah.
have humanity, and most of my humans worship the god of law and justice, and are so boring that a Jehovah's Witness would blush, in terms of what they're allowed to get away with. How does that interchange work with your Dragonborn? Your idea for your Dragonborn so far?
Well, not well, and I like to think the way that I have it kind of written in my head, I'm still kind of finalizing everything, is very similar to my own campaign setting. The Dragonborn were humans who, during a war with dragons, defected, and then the dragons were like, "Here you go, we'll make your skin scaly, and now you have dragon blood." And they think that they're better
Is that
than
a
humans.
metaphor for doing it?
No.
No.
That's
sorry.
literal dragon scales.
No, it's literally they were just like, "Here you go, here's some dragon blood," and then they had scales, and now they're dragonborn.
Okay. It was done with magic,
So
not
the-
with the power
the-
of love.
I feel like there's a huge
Sorry.
disagreement there because humans wouldn't like Dragonborn because Dragonborn gave up on humanity.
So
but
what's the current Dragonborn culture like? We did decide that Dragonborn are the most powerful.
yes,
They're currently on top because dragons are in charge of this cycle.
and and that would make sense that they were humans that decided that they were going to.
So I mean, but politically,
Receive
like
this
if we were to match them up with some historical major power, what are they like? Are they like? Is it like Britain when they were on top? Are they like Rome? Are they like the Roman Empire?
Are they like the Mongols and that everyone is very peaceful because they don't want to get murdered?
Because they know they'll all fight if all the fighting
No,
starts.
I don't think the Mongols would fit because at least the Dragonborn, a lot of the Dragonborn here would obviously be from the Gold Dragon that is in charge of the island.
Of course. It's a major power.
Let me get back to you on how, what empire I could make a parallel to.
Boo.
Now that question though, Jake, brings me to I think part of our next segment. How
Yes.
do we borrow?
How do you borrow without stealing?
Yeah, how do you borrow? Or how do you borrow without being like?
I'm
real
going to go
bad
ahead
at
and
it?
quote the great Matthew Colville here, who says, "You're only as good as how obscure your references are."
It's true.
Bingo
Yeah.
bango.
If you steal, you can steal from things word for word, but if your players have no idea where it comes from, you're a genius.
If you're stealing from a speculative fiction book in the 1800s that only had 100 copies printed, you're a genius. If you steal from
Right.
Lord of the Rings, you look.
You look like a dork.
Yes.
Coward.
Nerd. Again.
Okay, so let's. But really quick though.
Not to say that not to say that taking
Sorry.
influence from J.R.R. Tolkien or Lord of the
he's-
Rings in general is a bad thing.
No, it's an excellent
Just
thing.
don't have an elf in your campaign setting named Legolas and expect your players not to know where it came from.
Yeah.
Also, Joe says, guys, sorry, I have to get back to my chores. That's important. Go do your chores. We approve. But
Best
this
of
will
luck.
be available later to peruse at your leisure.
Yes, on Facebook and SoundCloud.
And I.
Also, apparently, Duncan loves Matt Colville too.
He
We
does.
love
Usually
Matt
have-
Colville.
We usually have a pick of him,
Duncan,
but we went with our
Duncan.
beautiful
So
voice
far,
this week.
we have like two things.
If
really
Matthew
well-
Colville ever watched this show, I would literally freak out. Like
Jake tweeted at him on our
Oh,
first
no.
date.
he is senpai.
No, but
Anyway.
okay. So
Oh, we're not crying.
Anyway,
let's
back
finish
to,
up.
Back
Hey,
to borrowing.
moving on.
no, not even borrowing. We got to finish up culture
Thievery.
really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all dove into borrowing before we even got done with culture.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up culture.
How do humans feel about Dragonborn
Oh,
culture?
we hate you.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you
we hate you
abandoned
so
so
it.
you don't you don't there's no crossover there?
Guys, Jeff has
No,
a
there
really
is.
interesting question. Jeffrey Verheesen.
Yeah.
Are the various races able to climb the social ladder and reach the social ranks of the native dragonborn and lizard folk, or will they always be beneath the native races?
That is an excellent.
That's
That is
really
a
great question.
fantastic question.
Uh,
Good
props.
good on you.
Here,
Who
you
was
get a
that?
prop from us.
Who is
Jeffrey Verheesen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
That's
s-
good
send
stuff.
him a like.
I
if you get a
love
chance.
good
I like
questions
that.
like this.
So
That's a good. I actually.
I'll like this. so you
My
can find it
personal
later.
thought
Alright.
is I'm not obviously in charge of anything related here other than history. Is that Pulsarax is a lawful good dragon, being a gold dragon.
Yeah.
So she would ultimately trust her children more than anything else because they've lived a long time and are intelligent. But if somebody was able to incredibly prove themselves to her, she would probably put them on equal footing with some of her children.
Yeah, see, I would
Also
like to
from-
think that Dragonborn definitely dominate with a gold dragon on the island, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
other races that are players here, they can all
If you
try
can
to get to
definitely-
that
So
level, but
let's kind of pigeonhole some people, right?
Okay.
Lizard folk, they are more the caretakers of this land. Like
They,
they're
they have a
they're-
leg up, but
Yeah, they have a leg up, but they are also just naturally born here. You know, like this is a prime. This is like one of. So we don't have lizard folk assigned yet. In about 2 weeks, we're going to do another draft just to finish up all the tidbits.
Yep.
But we'll say for now,
The
that lizard
outliers.
folk. You know, like this is a pretty major spot for lizard folk, and so while they do take up probably a meaty percentage of the population, probably about 40 to 50% of the population, they just view it more as taking care of their home. Like
Yeah,
they
do
don't
a
have
lot
a
of the
social
farming,
advantage.
a lot of the like shellfish harvesting.
so would you say that their
fishing.
culture is fairly similar to the way that Native Americans viewed the land?
Yeah.
let's say more like Iroquois.
Clint, I don't know, but I would say maybe they would be like the halflings compared to like if lizard folk and dragonborn are to what halflings and
So
humans are.
dragonborn
Oh,
or
okay.
humans.
Yeah,
lizard
yeah,
folk
yeah,
are
that makes
halflings.
sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
They're everywhere, but they're very. I'm not sure I'd call them humble so much as this is my personal opinion. It's their sacred duty to do what a Pulsarax asks them.
Yeah.
And they're not going to object
They don't
unless
really
it's
have any other
personally
business.
offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
the only
dragon.
other god they
She
worship
shelters
is
them.
Maiden Mother and Crone, which is the god of seasons and birth.
A Pulsarax
Endings
also,
and beginnings.
Yep.
A Pulsarax is like, yeah,
So
sure.
She shelters them.
Yeah.
They help her and protect her young.
Yeah.
So I guess
So-
I guess
Dragonborns would probably also have a pretty, just a natural higher leg up in
Oh,
society due to
definitely.
the relation between dragons and
So maybe I
dragonborns.
just start in like this hierarchy. Most people start in at the first level. Lizard folk start at third level, and Dragonborn start at fifth level in society, so to speak.
Yeah.
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 I
I could agree with that.
At the same time, though, it's its own country. It's its own city-state sovereignty, however you want to declare it. But because we could still make this a sovereign nation of
Yeah.
Dragonborn lands. Who
A
knows?
small island nation.
She's apart from them because she doesn't want any of their business.
Okay, so it's its own nation. Anybody who is born here or lives here, let's just put this out there. Anybody who is born, because this is a pretty lawful good thing, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who's born here,
Or has lived here for like, let's say 20 years maybe.
yeah, 10 to 20 years, or has had permanent residence here for 20 years is
Or like
a
owns a business and wants to and like doesn't own a business elsewhere.
yeah.
You can take public office then.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, they can have decisions. So it's this
Like
is
an
a
alderman system.
ultimately what I like about this idea of this this place, because we all have very we're going to get to this in a couple of the upcoming episodes, but we all have very intense
Feelings.
about what each of our races are doing.
Yes.
They're all very specific. But this is the melting pot. This is where
Everyone gets. You can't fight each other, but you can go and have a drink together and understand that you're not so different.
yeah, and you're also
I could agree with that.
like you gotta there is ultimately a social contract here that
Do not
Wherever-
mess the Pulsarax.
well that's rule number 1 of Fight Club, but rule number 3 of Fight Club at this point is that a lot of people from all over the world come here to start over.
Yes, this is where you go to forget yourself and to find yourself.
Yeah, you can
again.
be from the incredibly strict, justice-driven humans, and if you're a bit of a thief, a bit of a crook, might be able to start over. If you're a dwarf who doesn't like sacrificing people to the
Who thinks
sun god,
Maybe splitting people open and letting them bleed to death on top of a stone altar is probably pretty evil,
It's a
and you
little
don't
fucked up.
like
It's
that.
a little messed up, dog.
You can come here and say, "You're not going to chase me anymore because I'm, disagreeing with your horrible things."
yeah,
I'm going to go meet with this crook human guy. And we're
all
gonna
those
talk
people,
about these
all
things.
those people have a spot here at the table. Now, let's talk about borrowing and let's talk about blending cultures, and then
yes.
we're gonna wrap
Yeah.
up for the day because we've got about 18 minutes of show left.
Yeah.
We got some time, but not
So-
that much time.
So I think the easiest.
By the way, though, one more time, Jeff, great question. So
Seriously, thank you.
let's
That
get
gave me a
back
lot
to
think about.
yeah. Let's talk about blending. Though.
All right.
And
So I think the easiest
blending and borrow.
Yeah,
the
let's-
easiest example of blending would be what we just did earlier on the podcast, is blending geographies together, where you can say, the sort of like setting and look of a place. Like Mont Saint Michel is a castle in France that is only accessible at low tide by foot or car, and even then it's like super low tide because it's very mushy.
It's
and
a
sandy.
sandbar,
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hong Kong is an island all the time. Yeah, it's a castle built on a sandbar, which I do not recommend as a geologist.
No.
Perhaps foolish.
I don't want to say that like we're saying it's the melting pot, and it is because we have
Yeah.
so many different races that are coming here. But the way that I'm thinking about this, like the way that it makes sense to me, is say you have hill dwarves, right?
Yes.
They live in the hills. There is not a whole lot of water around them. So you come here and there's a bunch of seafood that they wouldn't normally eat, but they still like the taste of dwarven spices.
Oh, yeah.
So then all of a sudden you start to have like dwarven seafood dishes that you wouldn't see.
Clint, I wasn't finished. But that's a really good
It's
point.
a good point.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry,
I
I
like
thought
that a
you were
lot.
finished.
And now but you can sort of blend, like, I like the look of Roman buildings, but let me put them in the jungles of Brazil, you know? That's a really
Yes.
easy way to blend cultures and settings without sort of getting into, like, kind of racist stuff or stuff that, like, I don't actually know
If
anything
you
about.
end up at any point
like,
with-
ancient China, you know? And so you don't end up, you know, shooting yourself in the foot or putting your foot in your mouth, I think.
If
that's
you
a-
end up at any point with orcs and painted wooden masks and like,
Stop.
like spears and pots, just
Close your document, put it in the trash.
It can
and-
be
No, so
salvaged,
actually,
but
let's-
you need
let's-
to take
Call
some
us.
thought about
No,
that.
really quick. This is actually a very important discussion to have when it comes to world building.
Yeah.
Right, because it's
It's something that I don't think that a lot of people would want to acknowledge, but we have to.
it's
Cultural stereotypes come out as soon as you start to world build, and
It can
it's
get,
hard.
It can get very
It's
sticky.
it can be hard to fall into that trap.
So let's
Yeah.
go. Let
Or
me
not
go
fall
from
into
let
that
me go
trap, I
from
should say.
personal experience here with something that was a little difficult. So when I started DMing about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I started working on Aelin, my setting, I needed, you know, for me, I like having everything airtight. I like to have everything make sense and there's
Following
not,
in the footsteps of George R.R. Martin.
you know, I just like to
About
have
whom we
make
are not
sure.
going to speak.
Other than that,
I
he
just
has
like-
very airtight world building.
You know, I just want everything to make sense. So I needed a place it was logical and distant, and yet a world power where certain things that you're accustomed to players wanting, like katanas and stuff, would come from. So I needed to add Asiatic culture, and the only Asiatic culture that I'm actually familiar with that I've actually done reading on is Japanese culture, specifically about 15th and 16th century.
You're talking
Japan.
like 1400 to 1600 before Tanashigema became popular.
Pretty much.
Yes.
So I took that and I made that my elves. I made that my high elves.
Which
now,
makes sense, all told, honestly.
Yeah.
Now the difficulty in what came from that was a lot of people wanted to play elves that weren't Japanese because I would be like, well, you know, like
You
I wanna
mean,
blow-
you
I
mean
wanna
like
blow
my
my
character?
Now, to take a brief step, you're playing a half elf in my setting at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is kind of racist, so please bear with me. But the elves in my setting are sort of sub-Saharan Africans, specifically the Zulu and Igwa people.
Okay.
He's playing a sort of French elf, which
Okay.
is obviously a distinct stereotype, but it's not quite Zulu elves.
well,
obviously.
see, at the same time though, I was never informed of that because I would have
I made
reworked
You would
the
have fixed
character.
it.
I
Yeah.
made
Kinda-
mistakes in the brief rundown of make a pamphlet which just says exactly what your races are like so people understand.
Kind of like my character in your setting. I didn't know that the elves were essentially the parallels to Japanese
Well, at the same
culture.
time, when I
and-
started running the Wednesday game, I just thought it was going to be a one shot that got
yeah,
gotten way out of hand.
that's true. Yeah, that went on. It's still going on.
There's a fun trivia fact for you. Make a handout. If you've written a full world, make a handout and give it to your players to explain the brief stuff like these
These are
people
the
are
main
vaguely
cities.
based on
Yeah.
what? These are the main cities. If you need other questions, ask me.
Yeah, like this is here. Write a brief backstory. Use
But-
this.
That being said, Tamlin Westfield is still my favorite character in that game.
But
Tamlin Westfield.
Sorry,
But to the
Whamlin
main point,
Eastfield.
yeah, to the main point though, it's still difficult because I have a lot of players who just want to play like
Legolas.
they want to be Legolas or they
Elf
want to be
Rambo.
they want to be some Tolkien-esque elf and they don't want it to necessarily have to be Japanese. At which point I've got to make caveats.
Yeah.
I've got to make certain allowances for players. Not only that, but then there's also just that occasional gut feeling of like, you know, you got to look at stuff and you've got to really do that hard research to make sure that you are portraying a culture accurately and
Yeah.
you're not just, you know, like
Doing the most offensive thing possible.
Yeah, like I've never once had an elf speaking English. I've never once
Yeah.
had an elf.
Thank God.
Yeah, character voices can be very tricky in this way, but also, again, I think character voices and characterization is a whole
Well,
other episode.
There's
Yeah,
there's a
maybe
fine
2
line.
episodes from now.
I guess to wrap it up before we get too deep into that and we start to get into very sensitive topics, I feel like the best way that we can sum this up is there's a fine line between inspiration and appropriation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you entirely.
Yeah, just well, long story short, appropriation is when you just take the culture
Without
Wholesale,
researching
yeah.
anything.
without. Not only that though, it's when you take the culture and you do not give it its proper roots. Like everybody who plays with me knows that my high elves are Japanese elf.
Yes.
They're Japanese.
And that's why I say you use Japanese culture as an inspiration.
That reminds me, when you reboot your setting, remind me to play a Heian period elf.
Cool.
Will do.
Many layers of robe.
but
Paint my
Put
teeth
knives
black to look beautiful.
if you're here's the moral of the story though, kids. If you're feeling very uncomfortable, like if you think, for example, this is okay. If you look at something and you're like, culturally that's really cool. Say you want to do, let's make Dragonborns like Dragonborns have Indian culture, like
Yeah.
like
lots of
Hindu,
caste system.
Yeah.
Maybe
that
not
kind
the
of
caste
thing.
system, but definitely
400 AD Indians.
say you want to do like, you're like, okay, I want to have Indian, because I mean, right now Indians are the second most populous people on the earth.
Soon to be most populous people.
About to be
Watch
the
your
most
back, China.
populous.
Sorry, India.
If you want to do that and you want to like add that culture to your game, but you don't want to disrespect it, then honestly, go to your damn library.
Yeah,
Go to
and
Google.
also, yeah,
Do
I was
some
about to
reading.
say, Jake, that's a kind of bad idea because India is actually like 20-some
Yeah, there's-
very distinct kingdoms and city-states. That,
20-some
No,
is
but I mean,
probably
are you
understating
kidding?
it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't
Are you
say
kidding
it.
me, though?
There were over 100 different dialects in India.
Yeah,
But here's the
exactly.
thing. Why do you
Read
think
a book?
that's
Use a Google.
perfect
You need
for
like
Dragonborn?
60
But yeah, you have to. These are the types of things that we're talking about. You can't just go off of the. You have to do the research. You have to do the work there if you want to take cultural inspiration without
Being awful
the
about it.
possibility of offending one of your players.
So, ultimately, I suppose the best way to think this is take hints. Don't take the entire thing because that's almost. I
Yeah.
hate to say it, it's almost lazy. Because say I'm just gonna make the dwarves, but they're Scottish, which is the usual thing people do, of course. But you have to sort of like take only hints of it and work with your own. It's hard, but it's not insurmountable.
Jake feels attacked right now.
I'm sorry. Oh, Jake, you and everyone who's made dwarves in the last 50 years.
I know.
There is literally a character in Jake's game that all he does really is say "all right" with a Scottish accent.
I know you haven't been there in a couple of weeks now, but he's now the one true king of the dwarves.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Lord.
Thanks to me.
Brunor. Brunor, the greatest one-word tagline of D&D history. All right.
All right, so the thing is that taking hints from other settings, you can believe me, I've done this before. You can take entire cultures and sort of transplant them, and there's some work to be done there, and you can do some research, it'll be fine. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you'll offend less people, and I know this is kind of a weird thing to say. You'll offend less people if you only take hints of things and you mix in your own random elements of other stuff.
All right, guys.
That's why I like architecture so much.
We've got
It's easiest.
9 minutes,
All right.
and I've got to plug the giveaway at least one more time.
Yep.
But before we do that, all right, we figured out. I think we know Reargon pretty well at this point.
Yeah, this is. I feel like this is the point where we were talking about earlier, where you're like, let your players do some of the legwork. We have now done most of the legwork that we can do,
So
and
they
at this
can
point,
start
your
working.
players, your players' interaction with people and things like that will help flesh out the world and make it more realistic.
And on the off chance that you do steal Reargon, just let us know how it goes.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
Use
please.
use this in your campaign setting. Throw this island in there randomly, and then message us and let us know how
We're
it
not
goes.
going to trademark it. Just take
No,
it.
we're
Yeah,
going to
no,
be putting
it's,
all
it's
of our.
free. You
We'll-
can. You
Yes.
it's
We'll cover
yours.
our eyes
Happy
and leave it on
2018.
the table.
Of
Happy
course.
2018, it's yours.
We're going to be putting all of our information that we work through on the podcast available on our website eventually when we go through all the segments.
Of course, you can make it fit however you have your campaign setting. Have the racial interactions
But there's one more thing.
be what they are in your world.
There's one more thing.
We're listening.
Yes.
I'm interested.
Who's the villain in Reargon?
Ooh.
Who's the one? Who's the bad apple in Reargon?
You
Who
mean
is-
other than the dwarves?
Other than the dwarf. No. Who's
they're
the?
just rude boys in general.
You know,
I have an interesting thing for you.
who's
I'm
that
listening.
one person who's?
I would say that the one of the bad guys that we could see here is a dragonborn conspiring to take the island away.
There's a thought.
Maybe a dragonborn
Maybe-
who's
may-
not a gold
maybe-
dragonborn.
maybe an
they're
actual
different dragons.
dragon.
Yeah, like an actual
Maybe.
dragon with a
Well,
spawn of
we
dragonborn.
did say that there was a coral reef nearby. Maybe it's a black dragon hiding out near the coral reef because black dragons do like to hang out in the water.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a good one. So we've got somebody conspiring to take
Yeah,
this
or
away.
maybe there's some like a black dragonborns
Okay.
in the city.
What
instead of the
about
gold ones, too.
what about other people who are just really good obstacles? Let's create a couple of unique NPCs, just rapid fire style. Get the bell ready. We need 3 dings. All right.
All right, I got one.
No, you know what? Everybody, we're gonna go down the line. We're gonna have 4 interesting NPCs.
Each?
No,
no,
just
one each.
a
Yeah, sorry.
person.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. Do you want me to start? I've got a good one.
I've got one right now.
All right.
You first, perhaps then.
All
Helen?
right.
All right, Helen
Ladies
first.
first.
Helen first on the bell.
Well, Willardy, the antiques dealer, he has all sorts of weird stuff, sometimes magical, sometimes just a really nice table. But all of this stuff can be a lot of old stuff. Sometimes Miss Golden Dragon, I forget her lovely name.
Pulsarax.
Yeah, a Pulsarax. Sometimes she gets bored of stuff, and sometimes he has to find new interesting things for her.
Jangsal.
Oh, go ahead.
He's a dwarven trader.
Okay.
He wants slave trade to be legal because that's his greatest moneymaker. Okay, yes.
Money
they're-
making.
They're bad people, okay? That's what I'm trying to get out here is we're not having the orcs as the main threat, we're having the dwarves. Junksal wants slave trade to be legal, and he wants things to be more free for trade. So less taxes, even less than 2%, and anything can be traded in.
Fantasy NAFTA. Boo.
Where are we going?
Okay, so hang on really quick, just as extension onto yours, is he head of like a criminal empire? Has he?
Or is he like
He's
an
head
alder-
of the
Is
Hill
he an
Dwarven
alderman?
Trading Organization.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
basically an ambassador. Yeah.
So he
He's
he
almost
funds-
untouchable.
Okay, so yeah, but does he fund like local criminal commerce?
Of course.
Things like that.
He funds about, I'd say 60% of the local criminal organizations have some payroll for him to get contraband into the city.
Oh, yeah, also, Willardy's a tiefling.
Yeah.
He's just a weird dude who loves treasure.
All right.
Because everybody loves taverns.
Yes.
Marcus, the tavern owner, he's a human. He's in the pocket of the humans, and he gets paid to give travelers of non-human descent false information.
There you go. That's a good one.
Very
I feel
interesting.
like-
Very simple. He may not be somebody that causes a huge
of-
obstacle for your players, but like say 2 elves walk in and they start asking the bartender some information about the island.
A lot of pamphlets. A lot of
Yes.
pamphlets about how you shouldn't be here drinking.
yes.
A labeled drawer full of pamphlets
About how,
like, oh,
you
give
should
this
live a
pamphlet to
life
elves,
free
give this
from
pamphlet to
sin.
halflings, you know?
Yes.
In
100%.
the Flounder Pounder.
In the flounder pound. No, I
No,
don't think you
no.
could do the flounder pounder when humans are like that lawful.
All right.
Yeah, again,
Maybe
how
the
funny are you going to be with your location names? Like,
It's a chain, okay? It's a chain.
It's a chain. It's a chain. The flounder pounder is
I had to say
medieval Applebee's. That's exactly what I was about to say.
But Jake,
And boom, Jake.
Okay. Dario Steiner.
all right.
George R. R. Martin coming out there.
Dario.
Human. Yep, Dario.
Dario.
Human paladin who sees this great combination of cultures as a wretched abomination. That humankind and elvenkind and dwarvenkind and all other kinds should not meet together, and he is so
mixed.
yeah, should not be mixed, and he is so thorough in his conviction that he has managed to score himself some vengeance paladin powers. He basically stalks the city at night looking for people committing what he considers sin. This is a great encounter character. Like,
Get
this-
ambushed by a 10th level paladin and flee for your
If
life.
your party, if your
A
party is
fantasy
made up
geek,
of
I can't
anything
tell.
other than all humans, this guy is going to give you a
like
bad time.
this
one
guy,
race.
this guy got kicked out of the paladin order because he was too hardcore.
They're
like,
like,
he
"You
took
need
the
to
rules
chill.
too seriously.
You need to chill. And he
hold
was
on.
like,
That's a +3 stick up your ass. Like,
It's ultimately a conceit that I love, though, is like the paladin who takes the paladin with no chill, right? The paladin who has like 0 to give on relaxation. So yes, Dario Steiner.
Judge Dredd of paladins. Dario Steiner.
Judge Dredd goes, dude, you need to calm down.
Calm down.
Like
Please chill.
Yeah, like he sees somebody drinking in public and he just starts doing some Rorschach from Watchmen stuff where he's just like, "You are the abomination. You are the whore from the abyss. How dare you fucking fall into the fucking smite." You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Artie is like the drunkest dude on Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah.
Well, so we've got the
So,
drunk
guys-
guy from Antique Roadshow. We've got Slavers, Worst Judge Dredd.
Where's Judge Dredd?
A kind of racist tavern owner.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
He
right,
has
so-
really good beer, though.
Okay. Guys.
Yes, he does.
That's our city for the day. All right, we got about 2 minutes left. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody for tuning in. If you're new, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you at least watching.
World
we're here
building is
every
fun.
we're here every Sunday, typically at 4. We usually go 4 to 5 today. We just ran a little bit late.
Yep.
Let's see. We've got a contest going on. We're trying to
Yeah.
grow our Facebook. So our Facebook page, you can go to our Facebook page, the 3DMs Podcast Facebook page, and give us a like. We are giving away 2 D&D books once we get to 500 likes. So go ahead, share this video, share the message. You know, hey, these guys are giving away books. And we are going to, once we hit 500, give one of you lucky listeners a book of your choice.
As long
You have
as
a
it's
1
not
in 500 chance.
A D&D
Better
book.
than the lottery.
Actually, no, it's more like 1 in 250 because there's 2 books. Remember?
Oh yeah, we are doing 2.
Yeah, we're doing
That's right.
2. So you got a 1 in 250.
He said one of you lucky viewers. So yeah, 2.
That's actually pretty good odds, all told, since it doesn't cost you absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Other than your time and enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like 1 second.
So,
To piggyback off of what Jake said, thank you all for listening. We can't do this stuff without you. Your views, your shares, your likes will help us fund this show so that way we can continue to bring this type of content to you guys. And I think I can speak for all of us when I say we have a hell of a time doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Great
Live
fun.
interaction is one of the most fun parts of this podcast, and we always love hearing from you, be it live on our shows or even just commenting later on whenever the,
Yeah,
whenever
so-
the feeling strikes you.
let's finish it up. We got a Patreon coming out soon.
Yeah.
We're just getting content ready for that. We want the content to be actually quality and not crap. So
We're also finishing up the website.
it's
so that
technically
it'll
live,
present
and if you want to
nice.
throw us money,
We
send us a
greatly
message.
appreciate it.
But we're
not
not
gonna
going to
beg.
link it. We're not going to do all that right now
It's
because
not ready yet.
it's just not ready yet.
Working on it.
From there, we're going to be doing this all month, the world building conversation. So if you have any questions or caveats or things you would like to add to our world building, please send us a message here on Facebook or find us on Twitter. 3DMs Podcast is usually the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
We will be posting all of our world building resources that we are using ourselves, and then also what we come up with on our website later when we're done at the end.
I was just about to say that. I think
I'm
that
gonna
we should be
start- I'm gonna
posting our maps and
Yeah, I'm going to
things
start
like
posting resources like tonight, but start posting our actual stuff when we have it finished.
Yeah.
But-
But
that. I just blasted
It's
myself
time
in the face with a headphone.
Smooth.
all right, it's time for us to wrap up today. I'm Jake.
I'm Helen.
I'm Paul.
I didn't know who you pointed at.
Are you Helen?
Are you? What about you?
I'm Ron Burgundy. I'm Clint.
That's our show for the day, guys. Please get in touch with us. We love you. Hope you love us.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Roll on.
Wait for it. Wait for it. And